Welcome back to another episode of Treknicity Live. Greetings, fellow Trekkies and Trekkers. This is the Star Trek show where I talk about pretty much whatever I want to talk about Star Trek. And on Treknicity Live, no topic is taboo. However, today we're going to talk about Star Trek Voyager. And that's right, we're talking about the series that I probably know the least amount, and I'm going to be straight up honest with you. I've seen it. Actually watched the last couple of seasons like as a binge watch, and I've kind of peppered through the previous five. Voyager for me was I guess the least entertaining initially. However, admittedly, going back to it later on, I found that, wow, these actually were pretty decent stories. In fact, actually after talking to Manu Intiraymi during an interview, and just for those who don't know, Manu played Icheb in later seasons of Voyager. Now, just for those who might not be familiar with the premise of the series, Voyager basically takes place. It's another handoff series. So, the Voyager, which is the ship with the experimental organic drives and things like that, it basically picks up and takes off from Deep Space Nine and heads out to explore the Delta Quadrant. It is commanded by Captain Catherine Janeway, played by the immensely talented Kate Mulgrew. So that basically the ship goes out and starts getting into this scrap with some basically rebels known as the Maquis, who are they basically sit there and they're freedom fighters, if you like. They oppose the Federation's cooperation with the Cardassians and so on and so forth. And in this particular case, the Maquis are led by a character by the name of Chakotay, played by Robert Beltran, and then there is his sidekick or right-hand man, Tuvok, which we've played by Tim Russ, and we find out that basically, and spoiler alert, that Tuvok is a double agent. He's secretly a Federation-placed agent, attempting to bring down the Maquis from inside. So they all kind of get into this big scrap. They come across this space station looking thing. They go in there and they find this alien known as the Caretaker, who has been feeding energy to a far off planet, and is basically getting old and about to die. So it's kind of doing this thing. Well, what happens? They get pushed. Something happens. They get pushed far, far away from like thousands and thousands of light years away from home, and they have to learn to work together and basically make their way home. At warp speed, it's going to take decades to get home, but they figured, well, we might as well keep on going and trying because, hey, it's better than sitting here doing nothing. With that being said, Voyager for me was, as I started to watch it, was like a fun little romp. It's not that I never took it seriously as a Star Trek series. It was more that I don't know. I mean, it was kind of like, okay, this is kind of cool. It's a little fun. You have some, Garrett Wang playing Harry Kim always reminded me of that, that stand up, like, I work for Starfleet. I'm in Starfleet. Yay, we're explorers. Which is kind of, I know it sounds like I'm making fun of it. I'm not really. But it's really cool. I mean, he played that part really well. And of course his buddy, is Tom Paris. Tom Paris is the son of Admiral Paris. Tom has the distinction of basically doing something really bad and getting sent to pretty much the only prison left in the Federation, which is in, sadly to say, New Zealand. And of course, I lived in New Zealand for a long time, and man, was that a really nice place. I can't imagine that ever being a prison. If that's a prison, that sounds like, wow, here, go to this tropical paradise. It's a prison. Oh no. But yeah, going back, you have these great characters. You have, as the aforementioned, Chakotay, who is Native American, got a nice face tattoo going on. Robert Beltran, I had only seen him maybe in a handful of TV spots beforehand. I thought to myself, he's a pretty decent actor. But as Chakotay, really enjoyed that portrayal. Later on, you get sort of more in depth with other characters. You got Belana Torres, and of course you got Neelix, there's this, I guess, a dynamic. It's a dynamic. It's basically Robin Crusoe in space with Star Trek. So is that kind of a Lost in Space sort of vibe? I don't know. But there's still a definite dynamic amongst all the characters that were always just fun to watch. I mean, like I said, initially I didn't put a lot of stock in it because I was like, it looks kind of meh. But of course, I was in that part of my life where everything was pretty much meh. And when I went back and started watching more of it, I thought, wow, they are really kind of tackling some of these cool topics. And they brought in the likes of the Borg out in the Delta Quadrant, because we all, we learned that's where they kind of originated. And then we had another host of species that popped up quite often, the Hirogen species 8472, and of course the species 8472, which was really kind of cool because it was the first time that we actually saw somebody that could really give the Borg a run for their money. With the setup the way it is, basically you opened up the door for a lot of great storytelling because you had so far to go. It's like the journey home type of deal, which was a really great setting for a number of different stories to explore in the Star Trek universe. Nobody had really kind of gone that far. I think the only time we ever got really out that far as distance goes is back in the second season of TNG, when Q decided that it was time for the Federation to get a bloody nose and flipped them out in the middle of the Delta Quadrant, and they encountered the Borg. So, I kind of try to mix this a little bit between what I know of the series and what I think of the series. The more I watch it, the more I do like it. Kate Mulgrew, for me, really carries that series, and that's not to put down anybody, to put down the other actors. I mean, Roxanne Dawson, as she is now known by. I mean, she started off playing this really fiery half Klingon type of deal. And it was, in a way I felt it was a little one-dimensional, because it was like, rawr, I'm Klingon, rawr. But they really developed her, especially with the relationship between B'Elanna and Tom Paris that ultimately ends up developing during the series. Roxanne herself, also took over the helm of directing some Voyager episodes, if memory serves me correctly. But also, she stepped in and did some episodes of Enterprise. Now, the thing is, that's one really thing I love seeing, is that when you get these really talented actors jumping in there and getting behind the camera and putting their spin on the different stories, it's no secret that my favorite Star Trek director is actually Jonathan Frakes. I mean, he has the reputation, or he garnered during the filming of various Star Trek titles as two takes Frake, and that basically meant he was so good at getting the shots he wanted within he could do them within 2 takes, which is very difficult to do. Often, as a filmmaker myself, I've been in situations where there have been, you got to do a take. Okay, that's good. Let's do another take. Okay. well, that one wasn't as good as the first. Let's do a third. And the third one's like, let's try. How about we do this? So we do a fourth, and then maybe a fifth. And like, okay, cool. We got the one we really want. All right, let's do one more for safety. And so you end up with 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 takes of a shot. And that just goes a lot to say towards his ability to direct. Now, you talk about the thing with Voyager as a series. The only thing I really have any kind of beef with is how they ended it. And I'm going to spoil it for you if you haven't watched it. So if you don't want to know what's going on with this, you might want to skip past this part. But at the end, we basically find out that the Voyager comes across the Borg's transwarp conduit system, which allows the Borg to travel vast distances in very short amounts of time. Now, it comes to Captain Janeway's attention that they could basically destroy it and destabilize the Borg, and which would then be a boon for the Federation, because at this point they're still kind of in a semi-active conflict with the Borg. However, a future Janeway shows up, one who actually had to go all the way home. Like, she had to make her way all the way home without any assistance, any transwarp conduits, any special assistance. So, of course, she had to see everything. And there were some things going on, like, at the end of the series, Chakotay and 7 of 9 start getting together. And what happens is that they end up getting something ends up happening in Chakotay, something ends up happening where a member of the crew basically dies sooner than necessary because they didn't have access to things that were available on Earth or in the Federation. So she was upset and she's bitter about that. And, of course, she's heartbroken. So she comes back to try to prevent all that. She's trying, hey, you guys, no, you're going to use this thing to get home. And they're like, no, we're going to blow it up. So, no, you're going to listen to me and you're going to go home. Go home. In the end, they end up sort of clashing with the Borg Queen that we saw in Star Trek First Contact. And they do both. They end up blowing up the system or destabilizing it anyways and getting home, which is cool. However, to me, I don't particularly like stories like that because that feels like you just hit the big reset button. It's like, you know what? We've taken you on this cool journey for the last 7 years, and we're back to where we started. I mean, yes, of course it is years later because they've spent that time going home, but you still feel like, it's like this never, some of this stuff didn't mean anything because they just kind of jumped over, Maybe that's just me. I mean, I understand that there are a lot of people who liked the finale, the series finale of Voyager, and that's cool. I mean, look, I'm not bagging the series. I just didn't particularly like the way they ended it. But that's and that's one perspective. That's my perspective. That's what Treknicity is about. I'm still in the process, for those who are interested, I am still in the process of developing and getting ready to do the fuller, more produced Treknicity episodes where I sort of get really down and dirty and deep into the details of, the series, the movies, whatever. I mean, I even talk about Arena by going out to Vasquez Rocks, and watching, seeing the scenery and everything where Captain Kirk fought the Gorn. So, I will be back with more of that sort of stuff. But in the meantime, this Treknicity Live is just kind of like me having a little bit of a powwow with you. I hope you enjoy watching it. If you do, hey, just drop me a comment. Let me know what's going on. If you like what I'm doing, here at the Red Shirt Geeks, please hit the like and subscribe. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the little icon so that you can get notification as to when we go live with things. Just a reminder that this is Friday, September 28th. I will be back live again on Monday, October 1st, to do my sort of view on Star Trek Enterprise. And then, of course, the next 2 episodes will be pre-recorded like this. So, that's pretty much my take on Voyager. Again, this is more of just a general chit-chat about things. I'm not going to go super deep into details on everything about it. That's what the main show's about. So if you have any comments or any questions, please, again, leave them for me. You can also reach out to us at redshirts@redshirtgeeks.tv, and we'll be more than happy to answer your questions, do whatever we can to make a meaningful engagement with you. In the meantime, I will let you go with the same thing that I say at the end of every episode. Rock out with your Spock out. See ya, folks.